Hi, my name is Zai. I've played Quake for 18 years and counting, and I've reviewed over 50 gaming mice. Many have asked me to review the Mionix Naos because of its shape. They call it the most comfortable, and it might be true. To just rest your hand, it could be the most comfortable. If you're playing MMOs or MOBAs, this might be a good option. For first-person shooters though, this doesn't feel like a gaming mouse. It's more like a gaming moose. It's huge. I have to send this back after the review because it's a QG, a special version of the Naos. It's expensive because it tracks your heart rate and your skin response and activity. Personally, I have no use for something like this, other than slight curiosity, but I wanted to try the shape, so I accepted the terms. Anyway, the box is simple but stylish, and inside, it's just the mouse and the usual documentation. A quick tour of the design, there's a thumb groove, and a ledge for comfort, and to assist with picking it up. Grooves in the buttons, then the sensors on the back, along with an LED, and on top there are 2 extra DPI buttons. And of course the base is very wide, but the 4 mouse feet glide smoothly. And then on the right side, 2 ledges for your ring and little finger. Surprisingly, these actually feel good in all grip styles for me. I love the overall quality of Mionix products. They have this really nice rubber finish. They're mice you want to use more often because of how they feel. Durability might be a concern, but I'd still buy them. My slight complaint is their button tensioning. Something about the way they feel makes them seem flimsy, or hollow, I'm not sure. They're not bad, and they should suit MOBA and FPS games. They're just not quite my style. Speaking of the buttons, here's a listen to the clicks. So the left button has a bit of a hollow sound. The right is more like the other Mionix mice I've owned. They're good, just not my favourite type as I've said. And the right button can have accidental clicks if I rest my finger on it. Middle click has very little travel and is fairly tight, as usual. Scrolling up and down is quiet, smooth, and still maintains some noticeable steps. So it's good for browsing, and it should also be decent in games. The side buttons are light with a short travel, and their sides are angled so they're comfortable. And the DPI buttons are out of the way, so they're not easy to press, but shouldn't suffer from accidental clicks. In the latency test, neither test is accurate, but there wasn't much difference between it and the G900, so a good result there. For grip, this mouse requires the back of your hand to be on the sensors. Heart rate on the left, skin response on the right. But because this is the only Naos I'll probably review, I want to talk about the potential grips for the Naos 7000 too. You'll note that the button slope is gradual and the hump is a little toward the back, but fairly central. The design actually allows for all grip styles, which is amazing because it's not a safe shape. By that, I mean it dictates where you put your fingers. It doesn't really let you choose. But for my hand size, it works well in all. However, if your hand is bigger than maybe 20 centimeters, it might be uncomfortable. It's such a unique shape, I really don't know how to grade it. So I think it's going to work well enough for people with hands between 16 and 20 centimeters. And just quickly, the grip width is about 8 centimeters, the base length is about 11.7, and it's about 4 centimeters high. Also of note here, while it's comfortable enough, I don't think there's enough ledge on the right side, so it's hard to pick up. It didn't slip, but it felt like it was. Here it is next to 2 other Mionix mice, and a Death Adder and a G302, so you know the size of it. It's quite big, and yet despite its size and extra sensors, it still only weighs about 106 grams. And it feels fairly balanced too. Now the sensor. It's a top optical, being the 3360, so I'm expecting near perfect. This testing should show you how it performs in game. It can easily handle rocket jumping, but I struggle with the shape, as you'll see later in the highlights. And of course I can't make it spin out, as that would take about 7 meters per second. Zooming in for the sniper test, it tracks pixel by pixel, and it does it as smoothly as expected. I tested this at 400 and 1600 DPI. I don't have an accurate acceleration and deceleration test, but as with other 3360 sensors, it sometimes shows both, but only small amounts, so that's either the test, the shape, or the sensor. I really can't tell you for sure. All I can say is that in-game it doesn't bother me. The lift-off distance is under 1 DVD on a soft pad, and 1 DVD on a hard pad. I can't tell any delay, it feels responsive. In testing the 360, it performs the same as the other 3360 sensors. So in-game tests are all great, except maybe the acceleration test, which is still too hard to guarantee. In the line test I see no unusual jitter, no angle snapping, and no skipping. The lift-off movement is fine, although the mouse is big, so it's hard to lift properly. And there's no rattle issue. That's the top performance as usual by the 3360. For build quality, tapping it lightly, there's no rattle, and no sound when shaking it. It's also quiet, so it seems solid, quite well made. The cable is a fairly smooth braid, quite flexible, and the usual 1.8 meters. In the software, there's info for the updates, macro support is meant to be coming later, and it's RGB with 2-zone lighting, just select the colors you want. DPI goes from 100 to 12,000 in steps of 100. You can rebind the buttons, but there aren't too many options, missing media commands. And the interesting part where you can see graphs of your heart rate, clicks, and speed. I don't know how accurate it is, as I doubt my heart rate was a constant 85, and I doubt it dropped to 20 or so as well. I was doing sensor tests, so my hand would have been off and on the mouse quite a lot. The real-time statistics seem a better indicator. If I move the mouse around quickly, heart rate goes up, and when I relax, it calms down. In place of having the mouse cam for the gameplay, I put the heart rate monitor instead, so you can watch what my heart does during the highlights. But sometimes it just wasn't ready, so you'll see highlights without it showing a number. And then other times, I wouldn't be tense or worried, but it'd still show a higher number. I wasn't even playing hard. I'm not saying it's wrong. Maybe how I feel isn't a good gauge of my heart rate, and it could be that my hand wasn't on the sensor properly, which would explain why I was at 35 at times. In conclusion, it's a comfortable mouse that obviously is liked by many, but as a fairly serious FPS player, this mouse is too big and too awkward for me. But then everyone is different, so if you want your fingers rusted, then of course you should check this mouse out. It's great quality, just not for me. As for the heart rate and stats, well, if you can find a use for them, then go for it. I personally have no use, so if you're the same but you want a mouse in this shape, check out the Naos 7000 instead. It's a cheaper alternative. So special thanks to Mionix and MWAVE for allowing me to test this out. If you'd like to buy one and help support the channel, I'll leave the usual links in the description for you. And as always, subscribe, share, like this video, and I'll catch you in the next.